let's start with Tom Brady and what he thinks about rookie quarterbacks and how they shouldn't start right away. Basically went on a rant how they're not being developed the right way anymore, how he thinks it's a tragedy, and I quote, a tragedy that we are forcing these rookies to play early. And what Tom Brady pointed out, Travis, was when he was at Michigan, it was a pro-style offense. He learned that for 5 years. He went from a seventh string to a third string, then to a starter, and how it was all about development, hammering home the value of taking time, how much time it goes into learning and developing to getting into complex football. But now he says everything is dumbed down to get these quarterbacks in the game as quick as possible. So, as we look at, and we're right here in our backyard of New England, where you are a guy that says Drake May week 1, the GOAT is telling you, Travis, calm down, take your time, don't rush him into that starting spot. But this is beyond what you think in Drake May. What do you think of his outlook that, hey, looking at the NFL landscape right now where we see guys like CJ Stroud who took the league by fire, but then also guys like Caleb Williams that have all this expectations, all this pressure on them. What do you think of Tom Brady saying you're rushing them and football is being worse off by rushing these rookie quarterbacks onto the field?
George, I'd like to preface my comments by saying you know how I feel about Tom Brady. He is the GOAT. I love him. He's Captain America, but he's wrong here. And to use the word tragedy is so dramatic, Tom. Just relax, okay? First of all, quarterback development has evolved from when you came up, Tom. It has. There's never been more 7-on-7 camps than there are now. There's never been more quarterback coaches just there to develop that position. There's never been more, camps and dedicated resources, specialty type things just for quarterbacks and other skill positions. But we're just talking about quarterbacks today. It's a different time, George. I mean, I'm sure when Tom grew up, he played multiple sports. In fact, I know he did. He's a really good baseball player too. Same with me. When I came up, there were different sports for different seasons. Nowadays, true quarterbacks that are kids play quarterback year round. They're ready to go. It's the same in basketball. It's the same in baseball. It's the same in all these sports. So what happens is these kids quite literally go to whatever the next phase of their game is sooner and better and more equipped than they did back in the day. Tom's right now sounds like an old guy yelling at clouds. Like, bro, relax. These quarterbacks are more prepared at this stage where they are now than you were at the same stage. Now we understand what Tom Brady evolved to, and we also understand why he's probably sensitive to that. He's a guy who was developed. I get it. But I just think now these quarterbacks are more prepared than Tom Brady ever was. And also, they need to be developed. He's not wrong in saying that piece of it. But Tom, to say it's a tragedy that all these quarterbacks start as rookies is just flat out wrong. Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels should be starting day one, and they're going to ball out. And we all know it. Drake May, in my opinion, is going to be starting week 1. I know you and I disagree on that, but we're going to get to Drake May sooner than later. But he could be starting. Bo Nix could be starting week 1. And if J.J. McCarthy didn't get hurt, he could be starting week 1. So Tom just needs to relax. I think all these kids are going to be just fine, whether they start this year, halfway through the year, start next year, whenever it is. But to say it's a tragedy, George, come on, bro. Tom, you got to relax, man. You got to chill out.
I think he's looking at the development of the position, but also he could be like the old head yelling at the clouds of like, I earned my spot, 7th string to 3rd string to starter. I was a backup my rookie season. I didn't play, but I worked hard and I earned my way, but it valued me to learn the game. And it definitely did for him. He was a game manager. Those first 3 Super Bowl wins by Tom Brady. He had so many Hall of Famers opposite of him on the Patriots defense. Willie McGinnis, Richard Seymour, Ty Law, Rodney Harrison. And I'm saying whether they're in the Hall of Fame or not, Hall of Fame caliber players on those defenses. Yes. Teddy Bruschi, the list goes on and on, right?
Right.
What I look back to, and we'll get into the recent names, but I'm going to go back to 2008. Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, both first-round picks, both started since they were rookies in 2008. Yep. Go to 2009. Matt Stafford started right away, wasted a lot of good football on Detroit before he's finally traded to the Rams. But then Mark Sanchez, Josh Freeman, those are guys that had to start. Sanchez just wasn't smart on Sundays. But I think it's with these guys getting rushed into the starting spot. If you give them a year or two to learn the game, maybe Sanchez works out. So I think he's looking at how many quarterbacks don't pan out at the next level, how many quarterbacks that are high draft picks that just flame out right off the bat. And I think that's what he's pointing to. It's a double-edged sword with what he says as well. Because now if we go more recent, like I want to go up to the guys, I'm looking at 2020. Joe Burrow started every game until he tore up his knee. Tua Tagovailoa, that was a toxic situation, as we'll talk about later. But Brian Flores not starting him, putting in Ryan Fitzpatrick, yanking Fitzpatrick for Tua, going back and forth. Justin Herbert, he wasn't starting until the team doctor for the Chargers accidentally stuck Tyrod Taylor with a needle into his lung, and then he never looked back. All right, cool. Let's go to 2021. Trevor Lawrence, credit to him for starting in that toxic situation that he was with Urban Meyer and making it through now with Doug Peterson. But Zach Wilson, I mean, he was just dumb. Started from day one, number 2 overall pick. I just think he can't grasp NFL football at all because he makes awful mistakes. I don't know if sitting him would have helped him out too. Trey Lance, never healthy. Justin Fields, started as a rookie in Chicago. I could see what he's saying hurting him because I look at Chicago, I look at New York, and those weren't situations that were ready for that rookie quarterback they drafted. New England isn't ready for the rookie quarterback that they drafted. The offensive line's not ready. The receiving talent around him isn't ready. It's not going to be winning football. So I think what Tom Brady is saying is, I'd rather have a guy like Drake May. I'd rather have a guy when he was in Chicago like Justin Fields sit, learn the NFL game, learn everything that goes into it. Then year 2, when your ducks are in a row and everything is set up to at least support him and set him up for success, that's when you go with these rookie quarterbacks. Some guys can value sitting. Look at 2023. Bryce Young should have never played behind that offensive line with that awful receiving core. That's a year lost. Anthony Richardson, I said it to you, Trav. You love him, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you for loving Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
He needs to learn how to not take hits in the NFL before he plays. And maybe you learned it, but you lost a year of him. Now look at 2024. Caleb Williams, he's starting. Jaden Daniels, he's starting. Drake May will start at some point this season. Michael Penix, if Kirk Cousins can't go because of his Achilles, will play. You mentioned J.J. McCarthy. You mentioned Bo Nix. A guy like Spencer Rattler, I think sitting for a year will be great for him. But it's a two-edged sword of, hey, these guys are being rushed, but it's also these GMs and these front offices going, that is a cost control contract. We need to get as much out of those 4 or 5 years where we're not paying that quarterback so we can field the rest of the team. So if they're ready now, that's when it comes on to these offensive coordinators. And now we'll get into the second part of what he said, where everything's being dumbed down to get the quarterback on the field as quick as possible. Well, yeah, they need to dumb it down because they need these guys to get out there and play football as quick as possible. The best offense is in the NFL. The Dolphins, Mike McDaniels. The Lions, Ben Johnson. The Packers, Matt LaFleur. The 49ers, Kyle Shanahan. The Rams are Sean McVay, but that's a veteran quarterback running that show. Right. What's making it work with the Dolphins, the Lions, the Packers, the 49ers, how a guy like a 7th-round pick like Brock Purdy can win, or Jared Goff, who is a game manager but is now flourishing, or Jordan Love, who did sit 3 years but had the year he had, because those systems are so quarterback-friendly. Go out, you're going to throw the ball here. It has to be about timing. It has to be about being on schedule. You need to make 2 quick reads and get the ball out, throw it, anticipatory throws, because your receiver will be there. They're dumbing it down to get these guys on the field. They want these guys on the field so quick, Travis, because it's all about managing that cap. And if the quarterback is cheap, you can put more around him.
Yeah, listen, I was actually covering a team in Washington that ran a college quarterback for a college system for a quarterback named RG3, if you remember that. And that was Kyle Shanahan calling plays back then with LaFleur and McVay and the rest of them. And they pretty much ran the Baylor offense that RG3 ran in college. They did that in the NFL with a few wrinkles here and there. And we saw George RG3 have initial success. And then over time, we know the rest of that story, right? So I think you bring up a great point that Brady talked about of, you know, obviously the game's been dumbed down for these young kids and all that. Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of it. But that's also the evolution of the game. We didn't have the spread in the NFL either, you know, when Brady was coming up. Like these things, that's why I'm saying he sounds too much like old man yelling at clouds to me here. Like, it's like, bro, you sound almost like Belichick in a way where it's like, look, if you're going to be talking about these games and we're going to be watching you do play-by-play and all this stuff, and you're going to be talking all this football, what we can't do is every week go back into time. Like, come on, Tom. Like, the game's moving fast and changing. You have to change with it. So I just don't love any of these comments at all. Like, oh, we're dumbing it down. And like I told you, like, I can't get past the tragedy. It's a tragedy that rookie quarterbacks play. Bro, come on. No, it's not. These kids can play. Let's go. I want to see them all get in there. So I disagree with him. I love Tom. I disagree with this across the board.
There are times and places when quarterbacks are rushing to the starting spot, right?
Yeah.
Like I went through a few of them. And it's rare to have a talent that can overcome a bad situation. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes now can overcome a bad situation. Joe Burrow overcame a bad situation. Yeah. Like the offensive line was terrible. The Bengals suck. They're cheap. He might not have his best wide receiver week one.
That's right.
Because they're so damn cheap in Cincinnati. Even Justin Herbert overcoming bad situations with Brandon Staley, still getting to playoff games, still winning games, still being a top quarterback, and with a really bad offensive line. But then what do you see these teams do? What did the Chargers do? They drafted Justin Herbert in 2020. 2021 was Rashawn Slater. I could be mixing up the years, but they went Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson out of Boston College, and now Joe Alt. They invested 3 top picks. So I think it's about, they wanted to sit him, but their hand was forced. So when he says it's a tragedy, it's because they draft these rookie quarterbacks and they're putting them out there before they have solid receivers or a solid offensive line. Now, the opposite of that is, look at what Mac Jones was his rookie year. A Pro Bowl alternate, a Pro Bowl replacement quarterback. And then Matt Patricia and Joe Judge ruined that for him in year 2 and year 3, even with Bill O'Brien there. It is, I think, more tragedy of these young quarterbacks. And this is all of sports, man. You could talk to so many rookies. What's the situation? What's the ownership? Who's the head coach? What's the front office like? Who drafted you? Who's buying into you? Who is supporting you? And if they're not, and they don't care, like we saw happen with Mac Jones, like what was with Tua his first 2 years. There's the value of sitting some guys. Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre when he came in. Tom Brady sat behind, of course, Drew Bledsoe. Peyton Manning started right away, and he looked terrible. Set records for interceptions in a season, and then he figured it out. So I think it's twofold, and I get it. But with the dumbing it down, man, these are the best offenses in the league. It's not dumbing down. It's giving your quarterback gimme plays. Then if you're a top quarterback, a Patrick Mahomes, a Justin Herbert, a Joe Burrow, who can freelance, a Josh Allen, what I believe Drake May can do, playoff schedule, off platform, make those throws. And then Lamar Jackson, who went from a run-heavy offense, right, where it was all about running the ball, then evolved into a great passer now and entering year 2 in a Todd Monken offense, who's evolved to being one of the best passers, one of the best quarterbacks because of that. That's where it goes hand in hand.